So this is our testimony about what happened to us some years ago. Growing up, I believed that your testimony was your being saved story. Now, growing up in a Christian household, I was saved at the age of 7, or that's when I gave my life to the Lord. So I was a bit, I suppose, annoyed that I didn't have a fantastic saved story. But in my late teens, I realised that how God has worked in your life and how He has helped you, well, that's your testimony. So this is our testimony on God, how God has helped us through the darkest time.
February the 5th, 2000, just after 3 p.m, we both stood at the front of Sindel Baptist Church for the biggest day of our lives. We were about to be joined together by the holy bond of marriage. As all couples probably do, we had a lot to discuss in the months leading up and after being married. One of those discussions was naturally when we should start a family. Stephen was fairly keen to start a year or so, while I wanted to wait a little longer. After all, we were married fairly young and didn't have to rush. After getting back from a holiday shortly after our 7th wedding anniversary, we were extremely excited to discover I was pregnant with our first child. We were given the expected date of the 10th of January 2008. The pregnancy proceeded well. I had very little morning sickness and the baby grew as well as could be expected. Saturday the 13th of October, we had pregnancy classes where we learnt what to do when I eventually go into labour. The next Sunday, morning, the 14th of October 2007, 13 weeks before my due date, I woke up in quite a bit of discomfort.
I woke up and I heard Melinda in the kitchen. I'm thinking, oh, good, breakfast in bed. But after a while, I thought, well, then this has taken a little while. Better get up and find out what's going on. Only to see that Melinda was in quite a bit of discomfort. And what we learnt the previous day, we put into action, because we had no idea what else to do. While Melinda's water broke and we rushed her off to the hospital that we had chosen to give birth in. On the way to the hospital, we approached the Clyde Road Princess Highway intersection where the light had just turned red. Now, if you know these lights, they take an eternity to change, and I considered running the red light. But as there are other cars around, I chose not to. But miraculously, after about 3 seconds of the light being red, it turned back to green. At the hospital, nurses came running at Melinda's desperate cries, and we were rushed into a birthing suite where Melinda gave birth almost immediately. Ethan James Carle was born at 7:15 that morning with no sign of life. He was taken from us and put into a special crib that had been wheeled in while the nurses tried to resuscitate him. I remember just holding each other, devastated at the events that had just unfolded. Then we hear the words, "I have a heartbeat." What followed was pretty much organised chaos. As a paediatric doctor ran to the hospital, a specialised ambulance was called and a number of other people desperately tried to keep Ethan alive. He was transferred to Monash Hospital in Clayton as they had more specialised facilities. By the end of the day we were exhausted and Melinda was admitted to Monash in Clayton, and Ethan had stabilised. Monday, Ethan had become more active and was responding to our touch. We weren't allowed to have a hold, but we could put our hand into his humidity crib and he would respond to our touch. His tiny hand would hold onto our fingers. We were told that the first 3 days were critical, and if Ethan could survive those 3 days, he would have a very good chance. Well, that day was a pretty good day, and I went home that night hopeful of an even better day the next day. 1 a.m. in the morning, the phone rings. I was told that I was needed to come to the hospital. No reason given, but that would be provided once I was at the hospital. Now, I've spent a fair bit of time in the hospital myself with my heart condition, and I knew what that phone call meant. Well, the drive to the hospital wasn't easy. I could hardly see due to the tears. As I drove, I cried out to God, "Please don't let Ethan die." Halfway to the hospital, a peace came over me that I just can't explain. It was an overwhelming peace. Along with it came the knowledge that he was going to die, but that it was going to be all right. I arrived at the hospital where the nurses and doctors were setting up a chair for Melinda to sit in. She was able to sit in the chair, and Ethan was handed to her so she could have a hold. After a while, Melinda and I swapped. She asked me if I wanted a hold, so I had a hold. Ethan passed away at 2:15 that morning. After he passed away, we were able to give him a bath, dress him in some clothes that the hospital had provided, and before his bath, one of the nurses came to us with an ink pad and some cardboard, so we were able to get his finger handprints and footprints.
We were fairly new in the church we were going to at the time and didn't really know anybody. But we had so many fabulous people come forward and help us with organising the funeral. At the time, there was a popular song being sung in the church. We had it at Ethan's funeral, and we've asked Sean to play it today shortly.
During this tragedy, we were able to see the helping hand of God. Doing the birthing classes just the day before it all happened, the red light changing so quickly, having the right nurses at the hospital, one of whom was a nurse who was specially trained in preterm babies. Ethan being able to revive so that we could at least get some precious time with him. The doctor being so close. Protection for me on the drive to the hospital, and the peace that I felt on the same drive. Also the people at the church that came and helped us give Ethan a farewell. Most of these people we really didn't know. The worship leader at Ethan's funeral is someone who is known to you all. Thank you, Sean, for what you did back then. And of course, God providing three brothers for Ethan, although we had to wait a little while for them to come along. Also, too, this experience has had a big influence on my work. I think most of you know I work in the funeral industry, and it's mainly because of Ethan that I do. Thank you.